You sounded less like Seth Rollins and more like Drew McIntyre.
WWE faction to be banned. New Bloodline acquisition. Seth Rollins' future revealed. 4 things Adam Pearce can announce on tonight's Raw on Netflix. Tonight's episode of WWE RAW will be the second edition of the program on Netflix. Last week's show left fans buzzing for the upcoming episodes of Raw on the OTT platform. Additionally, as we approach Royal Rumble 2025, some major announcements might be made this week. In this article, we will discuss 4 things that Raw General Manager Adam Pearce could announce on tonight's edition of Monday Night RAW. The Bloodline saga witnessed a major development on last week's Raw, where Roman Reigns regained the Ula Fala by defeating Solo Sikoa in a tribal combat match. On tonight's edition of The Red Show, Adam Pearce could announce that Roman Reigns will now officially be part of Monday Nights. Currently, the original tribal chief is part of the SmackDown brand. However, since the idea of Raw on Netflix emerged, there have been rumors that Reigns will switch brands. Having the OTC exclusively on Monday nights would boost the show's viewership. Therefore, this announcement could be made on tonight's show. Number 3, a multi-man match could be announced to decide Gunther's opponent. Gunther is the World Heavyweight Champion and currently has no challenger in sight for Royal Rumble 2025. On tonight's show, the general manager could declare a multi-man match to determine the next challenger for the Imperium leader. There is also a possibility that the ring general might decide to enter the traditional Royal Rumble match after having a conversation with Pearce. The Raw general manager could engage in a confrontation with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins suffered a loss against CM Punk on last week's show. Disappointed with the bout's outcome, the Visionary might decide to confront Pearce on tonight's show and demand a rematch against the best in the world, since Punk is seemingly set to enter the Rumble match. Pearce could decline Rollins' demand and instead suggest that he enter the 30-man bout as well. Number 1, Pearce could ban the entire Judgment Day from the street fight on tonight's Netflix show. Finn Balor and Damian Priest will lock horns in a street fight. As Balor is still part of the Judgment Day, the rest of the faction might interfere in the match to create issues for the Archer of Infamy. Adam Pearce could take precautionary measures on tonight's show by deciding to ban the rest of the Judgment Day from ringside during the street fight. This could be done to ensure that Priest versus Balor ends with a clear winner, without any disruptions or interference. Seth Rollins to reform the Shield with 2 big names. XAU champ in WWE. 4 predictions for Raw and SmackDown this week. Last week, WWE RAW and SmackDown were nothing short of grand, historic, and enthralling. While the Red brand moved to a new platform, Netflix, SmackDown expanded to 3 hours. Both shows were quite eventful and featured several big and surprising moments. The creative team will look to keep the ball rolling in the second week of 2025. Fans could see several returns, betrayals, and some quality in-ring action in the new week. The company could also announce matches for the upcoming Saturday night's main event. On that note, below are 4 predictions for WWE RAW and SmackDown this week. Chad Gable is scheduled to face a mystery luchador on the upcoming episode of WWE RAW. The superstar in question could be former AEW World Tag Team Champion Penta. The luchador reportedly signed with WWE a while back and is rumored to be making his debut shortly. That could potentially happen on WWE RAW this week, as Penta could be revealed as Chad Gable's opponent. Raquel Rodriguez could be kicked out of the Judgment Day. Liv Morgan lost the Women's World title to Rhea Ripley last week on Raw's Netflix debut. However, the consequences of her loss could be faced by none other than her muscle, Raquel Rodriguez. Liv could blame Raquel for losing against Rhea Ripley and turn on her. Morgan could lay a brutal beatdown on her stablemate, kicking her out of the Judgment Day. This potential angle could then lay the breadcrumbs for a feud between the 2 stars. Since her return, Raquel has arguably been a side character who has not been fully utilized, and it won't be a bad idea to have her and Morgan split this week. Seth Rollins suffered a big loss against CM Punk last week on Raw. This may result in him turning heel this week. The Visionary has had issues with the Second City Saint and Roman Reigns, and if he does end up embracing the dark side, fans could witness the formation of a formidable faction. Rollins could join forces with Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, both of whom have issues with Roman Reigns. With the OTC's tussle with the new Bloodline seemingly over for the time being, The company could have him feud with Seth Rollins and company in the coming weeks. The Visionary, who was the brain behind the formation of the Shield, a faction featuring Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose apart from Rollins, could name his new group the Shield 2.0 to mock the OTC. Number 1. Solo Sikoa could be kicked out of the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa failed to defeat Roman Reigns in the tribal combat last week. This could result in the rest of the Bloodline members losing faith in him, leading to the Street Champion's ouster from the faction. Solo is scheduled to return to television on this week's SmackDown for the first time since his loss in the tribal combat. However, things may turn out too good for him, as Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga could turn on their leader, kicking him out of the new Bloodline. Seth Rollins is in a tough spot, says former WWE champion. Seth Rollins headlined the Netflix premiere of WWE RAW last week with CM Punk. While this is a great spot for the former World Heavyweight Champion, he suffered a loss when the lights shined bright. Big E discussed the current situation following Seth's loss during the post-show. He acknowledged Rollins as an important figure in the company, but wondered if the Visionary would go further down the card this WrestleMania season because of the traffic. Many major players, including some legends of the industry, are expected to be part of the Las Vegas show in April. Speaking on the premiere post-show, Big E noted that Seth Rollins vs. CM Punk was a match that was initially considered to headline WrestleMania. Now that there is a clear winner, perhaps that is not in the cards anymore. The former WWE champion wondered, what is next for the Visionary? I think one of the interesting things about our business is that what's compelling on screen is really interesting, but there's so much compelling stuff that happens backstage as well. There's so much jockeying for position. I think, in Seth's mind, this match was going to headline WrestleMania, and now he's trying to find his spot. Where do I fit in? What's next for me? After defeating Seth Rollins in the main event of Raw, CM Punk put world champions Cody Rhodes and Gunther on notice. The Best in the World has also announced his participation in the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble. Big E is unsure about a Seth Rollins marquee match at WrestleMania 41. While Seth Rollins could still bounce back from this loss with a Royal Rumble win, the Visionary has maintained his silence regarding any plans. After last week's show, he showed off his brutal war wound on social media. Big E addressed the involvement of John Cena at WrestleMania 41 and possibly Dwayne Johnson, without outright mentioning them. With a number of top stars on the roster as well, who continue to clutch on their position.